Alright, this is What If Naruto was in Percy Jackson, Part 1. Alright, so I apologize in advance if this is kind of an echoey type place, because it is the bathroom that I am filming it in, because this is the quietest place right now at the time, because everyone else is sleeping, but I'm trying to be quiet, so alright. So, for the continuation, I will begin. Mr. Brunner led the tour. He rode up front in his wheelchair, guiding us through the big echoey galleries, past marble statues and glass cases full of really old black and orange pottery. It blew my mind that this stuff had survived for 2,000 years. He gathered us around for a 4 meter tall stone column with a big sphinx on top, and started telling us how it was a grave marker, a steal for a girl our age. He told us the carvings on the sides. I was trying to listen to what he had to say because it was kind of interesting, but everyone, including Naruto, kept chatting all around me. Plus, every time I told them to shut up, the other chaperone, Miss Dodds, gave me the evil eye. Miss Dodds was this little math teacher from Georgia who always wore a black leather jacket, even though she was 50 years old. She looked mean enough to ride a Harley right into your locker. She had come to Yancey halfway through the year, when our math teacher had a nervous breakdown. From her first day, Miss Dodds loved Nancy Bullwhip and figured I was the devil's spawn. She would point to her crooked finger at me and said, "Now, honey," real sweet, and I knew I was going to get after-school detention for a month. It was about the same for Naruto. He would always bring her an apple to try and get on her good side, but she just ignored him. One time, Nancy Bullwhip spit on him and pushed his papers off his desk. He pushed her back, and he got an entire 2 weeks detention, just for a justified push. Can you believe it? Another time, she made us erase answers out of an old math books until midnight. I told Grover I think Miss Dodds isn't human. He looked at me and Naruto real serious. You're absolutely right. Mr. Brunner kept talking about Greek funeral art. Finally, Nancy Bullwhip said something about the naked guy on steel, and I turned around and said, "Will you shut up?" It came out louder than I meant it to. Naruto looked at me smiling. The whole group started laughing. Mr. Brunner stopped his story. "Mr. Jackson," he said, "did you have a comment?" My face was totally red. I said, "No, sir." Mr. Brunner pointed to one of the pictures on the steel. "Perhaps you could tell us what this picture represents." I looked at the carving and felt a flush of relief, because I actually recognized it. "That's Kronos eating his kids, right?" "Yes," Mr. Brunner said, obviously not satisfied. And he said he did this because, well, I racked my brain to remember. Kronos was the king god and... God, Mr. Brunner asked. "Titan," I corrected myself. "And he didn't trust his kids who were gods, and he ate them, right? But his wife hid baby Zeus and gave Kronos a rock to eat instead. And later, when Zeus grew up, he tricked his dad, Kronos, into barfing up his brothers and sisters." "Ew," one of the girls said behind me. And so there was, a big fight between the gods and the Titans. I continued, and the gods won. Some snickers from the group behind me. Nancy Bullwhip mumbled to a friend, "Like we're going to use this in real life? Like it's going to be on our job applications?" "Please explain why Kronos ate his kids, and why Miss Bullwhip's excellent question, does this matter in real life?" Mr. Brunner said. "Busted," Grover mumbled. "Shut up," Nancy hissed, her face brighter red than her hair. "Don't get pissy because you got caught for once," Naruto remarked while grinning. Naruto was right. At least Nancy got in trouble. Trouble too. Mr. Brunner was the only one who ever caught her saying something wrong. He had radar ears. I thought about his question and shrugged. "I don't know, sir." "I see." Mr. Brunner looked disappointed. "Well, half credit, Mr. Jackson. Zeus did indeed feed Kronos a mixture of mustard and wine, which made him disgorge his other 5 children, who, of course, being immortal gods, had been living and growing up completely undigested in the Titan's stomach." Naruto looked completely mesmerized. "The gods defeated their father, sliced him into pieces with his own scythe, and scattered his remains through Tartarus, the darkest part of the underworld. On that happy note, it's time for lunch. Miss Dodds, would you lead us back outside?" The class drifted off. The girls holding their stomachs, the guys pushing each other and acting like doofuses. Naruto, Grover, and I were about to follow when Mr. Brunner said, "Mr. Jackson." I knew this was coming. I told Grover and Naruto to keep going, then turned around and said, "Sir?" Mr. Brunner had the look that wouldn't let you go, intense brown eyes that could have been 1,000 years old and had seen everything. "You must learn the answer to my question," Mr. Brunner told me. "About the Titans?" I asked. "About your real life and how its studies apply to it." "Oh. What do you, what you learn from me," he said, "is vitally important. I expect you to treat it as such. I will only accept the best from you, Percy Jackson, and your brother Naruto, too." I wanted to get angry. This guy pushed us so hard. I mean, sure, it was kind of cool on tournament days when he dressed up in armor and shouted, "Whoa!" and challenged us sword point against chalk to run to the board and name every Greek and Roman person who ever lived, and their mother, and what god they worshipped. But Mr. Brunner expected us to be as good as everybody else, despite the fact that we had dyslexia and attention deficient disorder, ADHD for short, and we have never made it above C minus for in our lives. No, he expected us to be better, and we just couldn't learn all those names and facts, much less spell them correctly. I mumbled something about trying harder, while Mr. Brunner took one sad look at the steel, like he'd been at the girl's funeral. He told me to go outside and eat my lunch. The class gathered on the front steps in the museum where we could watch the foot traffic along Fifth Avenue. Overhead, a huge storm was brewing, with clouds blacker than I'd ever seen over the city. I figured maybe it was global warming or something because the weather all across New York State had been weird since Christmas. We'd have massive snowstorms, flooding, wildfires, lightning strikes. I wouldn't be surprised if a hurricane was rolling in. One weird thing that happened to Naruto during a storm. Once we were playing outside when a storm rolled in. One weird thing was lightning struck Naruto and he said it only made him feel stronger. I've had very similar feeling in water sometimes. Nobody else seemed to notice. Some of the guys were pelting pigeons with Lunchable crackers. Nancy Bobofit was trying to pickpocket something from an old lady's bag, and of course, Miss Dodds wasn't seeing a thing. Grover, Naruto, and I sat on the edge of the fountain, away from the others. We thought that maybe if we did that, everybody wouldn't know we were from school. The school for losers and freaks who couldn't make it elsewhere. "Detention?" Grover asked. "Nah," I said. "Not from Mr. Brunner. I just wish he'd lay off me sometimes." "I agree," Naruto said. "I mean, we're not geniuses." Grover didn't say anything for a while. Then when I thought he was going to give me some deep philosophical comment to make me feel better, he said, "Are you guys going to eat your apples?" I didn't have much of an appetite, so I let him take it. But Naruto continued to eat his without even batting an eye. I watched a stream of crabs down the Fifth Avenue, and the thought of my mom's apartment, only a little ways uptown from where we sat. I hadn't seen her since Christmas. I wanted so bad to jump in a taxi and head home, and Naruto has agreed many times. But she'd hug us and be glad to see us, but would be disappointed as well. She'd send us right up back to the Yancey Academy, remind us that we had to try harder, even if this was our sixth school in 6 years, and how we're probably going to get kicked out again. I wouldn't be able to handle the sad look she'd give us. Well, that's going to be the end of part 1. And I tried to make this one a little longer. So if you guys want a part 1.5, then hit the subscribe and like button, turn on post notifications if you enjoy my content. Thank you guys for watching.